Very good evening. So today we have to start the overhead costing. So in management accounting, there are three main areas. In management accounting, there are three main areas. One is material cost. The second one is the labor cost. And the third one is the overhead cost. Right. So when it comes to the cost, material cost we discussed, labor cost also we discussed, and we have the overhead cost. So the overhead cost is classified. Overhead cost means the electricity, water, rent, right? All indirect costs, right? So we classify all the overhead as non-production overheads and production overheads. So non-production overheads goes to the income statement, profit and loss account, administration, distribution, and any other cost. Non-production overhead. Then the production overhead cost will be taken under the manufacturing account. Right? So in manufacturing account, if you can remember, we take material cost and labor cost and other direct costs as the prime cost. Right? For the prime cost, we add the production overhead cost. Right? So once we add the production overhead, we get the total production cost. So when you are adding the production overhead, there is a process. So this is not like manufacturing account. Here, in taking the production overhead, we have to allocate or absorb the overhead cost. So that is the process that we are going to study here. Overhead cost. Right. So first, let me explain what is meant by overhead cost. Overhead cost overheads are the expenditure which cannot be conveniently traced. You cannot trace or identify with any particular cost. Right? So simply indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses. Examples like electricity, rent, rates, water, stationery, depreciation. Right? So these are the overhead costs. Then we classify the overheads as production overheads and non-production overheads. Production overhead means the overheads related to manufacturing. Supervisor salary, factory supervisor salary, machine insurance, machine depreciation, factory rent, anything related to the factory production, manufacturing process. Non-production overheads are administration and distribution overheads, which we take under profit and loss account, P&L. Right? Production overheads we take under manufacturing account. So that's how we classify the overheads. Right? Now this is the most important part, the process of distribution of overhead. How can you allocate the overhead into the production? So there are four steps. Number one is collecting the overhead. Number two, allocation of overhead. Number three is called apportionment of overhead. Number four is called absorption of overheads. So these are the 4 steps: collection, allocation, apportionment, absorption. So collecting means we collect the source, the overhead cost using the source documents, salary sheet, electricity bill, general vouchers. We collect the source documents, right? Then we allocate. Allocate means if you can directly identify, if you can easily identify, we allocate them to the relevant department. We call it the cost center, relevant cost center. When I do the example, you will understand this in a clear way, right? So for example, when you receive an electricity bill for a specific department, you can allocate that for that department. Allocation, collection, then allocation. Then the third step is apportionment. Now, if you can't allocate, if you can't directly identify the overhead cost, then you have to use a reasonable basis to allocate. That is called apportionment. Apportionment has 2 parts, primary and secondary. Primary means you apportion all the cost to the production and service department both. Then, since the service department doesn't manufacture any product, the service department cost center or the service department cost will be again transferred to the production department. First, you allocate to all the departments. Then from the service department, we allocate the cost to the production department. And finally, the fourth step is absorption. Absorption means once you calculate the overhead cost for the department, that overhead should be charged or allocated to the final product. Right? So this entire process I will explain from an example. Right? So these are the bases for apportionment. Electricity, rent and all. You can take the base as flow area. Right? Water bill and all. You can take unit consumed. Expenses like medical expense, indirect wages, welfare, employee related expenses, you can allocate or you can apportion using the number of employees. Machinery depreciation, insurance and all, you can take the machine values. Service department expenses, you can use the requisition note. So likewise, we can use different bases for the apportionment. Then the absorption, we have to use the absorption rate. Right? So I will explain this absorption rates and all from one example. So let's do this question. One, I'll directly explain from a past paper question. Right. So let's do a past paper. 2018. So let me explain 2018 paper. 2018 paper. A fruit drink processing company produces two types of fruit drinks, mango and pineapple. It has a factory consisting of two production divisions, processing and bottling, and a service division, store. The factory and the store are located in separate buildings. Factory is separate, store is in separate place. So in the factory, you have processing and bottling uh, divisions. Factory, store, rent, direct wages, electricity charges, insurance, rates for building, charges for security services. In the factory, you have So processing and bottling, we have number of employees, flow area, cost, cooling machine hour for the period, security personnel, total kilowatt hours per period. This is, they have given this in order to uh, divide the cost. Additional information, production machinery and cooling machine are depreciated annually at 10% and 8% respectively on straight line method. The total overheads of the stores is reapportioned between processing and bottling divisions on the basis of cost of production machinery. Overheads of the production divisions are absorbed based on machine hours. Following information relates to a bottle of mango drink. And this is actual time spent, direct cost, non-production variable overheads, non-production fixed overheads. Profit margin is 20% on the selling price of each product. Required the overhead analysis sheet showing the basis of apportionment, including reapportionment of service division overheads, absorption rate for two divisions, processing and bottling, cost of production per bottle, budgeted selling price per bottle. So when you look at the question, it seems like a lot of things to be done, but when you do it, it's not a hard thing. It's very simple. Only thing you need to follow the steps, the process. Okay. Right. Let's take this question. This is 2018 question number 2, part B. Right. So let's draw an overhead analysis sheet. Overhead analysis sheet. Overhead analysis sheet. Right. So this has item base of apportionment, base of apportionment, then the total cost, to production department as processing, bottling, and the service department. Stores. So draw this table. There is a question, so why production of processing and bottling in the same group? Processing and bottling departments are under production. So it's manufacturing process. These two departments comes under production. Stores comes under service department. That's why under production we took processing and bottling. Under service we have stores, service department. This is production department. And draw this table. Remember, this is very important question. And it's a compulsory question in the paper. Right? Okay. So first thing, the apportionment of cost. Right? So this is a food drink manufacturing company. So they have two types of food drinks, and production division has processing and bottling, and the service division has stores. Right? Budgeted information at the activity level of 50,000 units for the 1 year period is as follows. Now, let's allocate the cost. So first we have the rent. Rent is total 230,000. Production means, remember, this is the factory, okay? This is the stores. Now, if you take the rent, stores rent is 50,000. That is directly given. That's direct. Then the factory rent is 180. We can, if you want, we can show it separately, or else as a one end. Let me take separately. This is store rent. Store rent, the basis is directly given. So we take direct. 50,000 is the total. And it goes to the stores column. Then the factory rent What is the basis? Total 180,000. What is the basis to divide the factory rent for processing and bottling? How much is for processing? How much is for bottling? What is the basis that you have to take in order to divide the rent for processing and bottling? We have to take what? The floor area. Floor area. 12,000 and 80,000. So divide the factory rent based on the floor area. What is the rate for floor area? It's 2:. Now 12,000, 18,000 means the rate is 12,000 and 18,000 means 12:18. 12:18 means 2:3. 2:3. So 180,000 divided by 5 into 2. 180,000 divided by 5 into 72,000 and 108,000. The production, the rent for factory is for processing and bottling department. Now it's like this. The stores department is a separate. Stores department is a separate unit. Okay, but in the factory we have a processing department and a bottling department. So any cost in the factory, so 108,000 rent in the factory. In the factory, let's say this is the factory. Factory has two departments. One is processing department, other one is bottling department. So the factory building, you are paying 180,000, right? So the floor area used for processing 12,000 square meters, bottling 18,000 square meters. So this is the rate that you have to divide, 12,000 and 18,000. So 12,000, 18,000 rate is, this is if you divide by 6, 2 divide by 6, 3. So 2:3. This 180,000 should be divided 2:3. Is it clear now? Right, let me explain again. Okay. So let's assume that now this is our factory. Okay, and this is the stores. So let's say the factory is in Colombo and stores in Kandy. Right? The factory has two departments, processing department and bottling department. Let's say this is two floors. The first floor is processing department. The second floor is bottling department. In the stores, there is only one. It's only the stores. Right now, rent. The store's rent is directly given, which is 50,000. This rent is 50,000. right? Factory total rent is 180,000. Total rent. So you have to see how much is for production processing department and how much is for bottling department. So we have to divide the 180,000 rent based on the floor area. So floor area is given 12,000 into 18%. Right? So if you take the rate 12,000 into 18,000 means you divide this 6. If you divide by 6, 2 is to 3. So 180,000 should be divided 2 is to 3. So that's how we take 72 and 108,000. So let's do a few more items and see. If you didn't understand, tell me, I will clear. So that is about rent. Then we'll take the electricity. So we take the floor area. Electricity charges. Indirect wages amount not given, so we'll fix later. Electricity. Stores electricity directly given. Electricity. Because it is separate now. It's in candy. So that electricity we can directly take it under the stores. How much? 30,000. Stores 30,000. Then factory electricity. What is the basis? What is the base of apportionment for factory electricity? What is the basis you can take? Just tell me, others. Shahid, Sarita. What is the basis for factory electricity? Shudeva? Electricity we calculate from kilowatt hours. Right, so 40 kilowatt hours given the period. Right, so we can use that basis, kilowatt hours. Kilowatt hours. So what is the basis? 3:2. Total amount is electricity. Total amount is 120,000. So how much is for processing? How much is for the bottling? Processing and bottling. That will be divide. 3:2. 120,000 divided by 5 into 3. Then 120,000 divided by 5 into 2. 48,000, 72,000. That's how you divide factory electricity. Good. Then machine insurance. Machine insurance stores. Stores machine insurance, we can take direct. 20,000. Directly we can take. Factory. Factory machine insurance. What is the basis? Factory machine insurance. It's production machinery cost. Don't take the machine hours. We don't divide the insurance based on the machine hours. We take the cost of the machine. Machinery cost. We have to take the machinery cost. 4:2 is, or 2:1. 2:1. Yes. 400,000 to 200,000. If you divide that, the rate comes 2:1. Total amount, insurance 90,000. How much is for processing? How much is for bottling? These are stores. Tell me how much is for processing and bottling. 2:1. So 90,000 divided by 3 into 2. 60,000. 90,000 divided by 3 into 1. 30,000. 60,000 and 30,000. So can you all do the rates? Rates for building. Stores. Stores rates directly you can take. Factory rates. What is the base of apportionment? Divide processing and bottling. Stores rates. 30,000 is total. Factory rates 9,000. Yes, rates also, rent and rates, we have to take the base as floor area. Factory rates also floor area. Rent rates both floor area we can take. So this is 30,000. Factory rates 2:3. This divide by 5 into 2, divide by 5 into 36 and 54. Right. Now let's divide the indirect wages. There is a question. If we didn't recognize the base properly, then everything will go wrong. Yes, all the calculations will change. But don't worry, most probably if you have done this formatting and the calculation methods, you will get the marks. Only for that division or that part you will they will reduce the marks. But it's always better to have the full idea of the base of proportion. Now let's take indirect wages. Indirect wages. Total amount is given 400,000. Indirect wages. What is the base for indirect wages? It's number of indirect employees. So the base is 10 is to 15 is to 15. That is 2 is to 3 is to 3. 2 is to 3 is to 3. So for all three. Indirect employees, they have given. Let me get given. So take 400,000. Divide by 8 into 2. 100,000 divide by 8 into 3. 150,000 and 150,000. Indirect wages are for both, yes, because they are given the total amount. Total amount is given as 400,000, and here they have given the number of indirect employees. So this amount will be divided based on the number of indirect employees. All the other ones, source value is separately given. Right. So you understand the difference between the other expenses and this. Then also we have another one more expense, charges for security services, 360. Can you all tell me this? Security. Tell me how much is processing, bottling and stores. Total amount 360. Tell me how much is for processing, how much is for bottling, and how much goes to the stores. What is the basis? Security service, we can take the number of security person. Understood. Understood. 1 1. So total amount 360 divided by 6. 60,000, 60,000 and multiplied by 4. 240,000. See how easy to do this. Like when you look at the question, it feels like difficult, but when you do it, it's very simple. Only thing is you need to know the base of apportionment. Then we also have additional information. So the additional information says the production machinery and the cooling machine are depreciated annually at 10% and 8% respectively on straight line method. So we need to do the depreciation now. So let's do the depreciation. Production machinery depreciation. So production machinery a cost. Processing department has 400,000. Bottling has 200,000. So separately given. Machine cost. So you can depreciate 400,000 into 10%, 40,000. Then 200,000 20,000. So total depreciation is 60,000. Production machinery depreciation. Processing department has 400,000 worth of machine. Bottling department has 200,000 worth of machine. So 10% depreciation. From their production machinery depreciation. It's from the additional information. Additional information gives depreciation. To calculate the depreciation. This. So if we have given the depreciation rates, we have to depreciate the assets. Then the cooling machine. Cooling machine is, it's in the stores. Cooling machine. Cooling machine depreciation. So 250,000 into 8%. So actually these are direct, okay? 250,000 into 8%, 0.08. 20,000. Now take the total of each one. Calculate the total. What is the total processing, total bottling, and total stocks? We need the total values. Then there's a question, we don't use machine hours. Machine hours we normally use for absorption, right? So we will use that after this. We use everything other than the machine hours. So machine hours, we will use that part in the absorption rate when calculating the absorption. Right. So that comes next. Yes, I got one answer. How about the others? Total processing, bottling, and stores. And 450. Four 40, 470, 540. 440, 470, 540. Right, very good. So this is the total cost. Now they are telling about reapportionment. So this is the apportionment that we use the apportionment. Now, since the service department doesn't manufacture anything, this service department cost should be allocated to the production department, the processing and bottling departments. Right, so that basis is given. Here they have given the basis. The total overhead of stores is reapportioned between processing and bottling division on the basis of cost of production machinery, based on the machinery cost. So let's divide the service department. Reapportionment of service division. Reapportionment of service division overheads. What is the basis? Production machinery cost. Production machine cost is 2:1. Stores department cost minus that will be distributed bottling and processing 2:1. So 540,000 divided by 3 into 2. 540,000 divided by 3 into 1. So here, so the final total. There is no balance in the service department. Right. So I'll repeat that. Now service department has a cost of 540. Service department is having a cost of 540. Since service department doesn't do any manufacturing, right? There is no product from the service department. There is no product from the service department. That service department cost has to be transferred to the production departments. So the rate is given here. The total overhead of the stores. So here you can see the total overhead of the stores reapportioned between processing and bottling division on the basis of cost of the production machinery. So cost of the production machinery is 2:1. Divide based on 2:1. Is it clear? Reapportion means, now first part is apportion. Directly you divide. This is the apportionment. Right? Reapportion means service department reapportionment to production. That's the reapportion. The production machine cost. Machine cost comes from here. Production machine cost. 400 is to 200 means 2:1. 4:2 and 2:1. Then let's calculate total. Divide by 3 into 1. Divide by 3 into 2. $860. So this is the overhead analysis sheet. So I hope it's clear. Any other doubts? Is this clear, this part? Overhead analysis sheet, apportionment and reapportionment. So in our steps, we gave 4 steps. This collection overhead, collection of overhead, they will give you. Then allocation of overhead. So what is allocation? Now if you read, you will understand. Allocation of overhead means distribute overhead cost among cost centers which can be identified easily for each cost center. So that is direct. Apportionment overhead means if you distribute overhead cost among cost centers which cannot be identified directly for each cost center by using a reasonable base. So this has 2 parts, primary distribution and secondary distribution. Primary means we allocate for production and service department both. Secondary means redistribution of overhead cost of service cost centers for the production department. Now we are in the 4th step, which is absorption rate. So we will do the next part. Overhead absorption rate for 2 divisions, processing and bottling. In part 2. Overhead absorption rates. So we calculate the overhead absorption rate by taking the overhead, budgeted overhead divided by base. Now here the base, they have told overhead of the production divisions are absorbed based on the machine hours. So the base is machine hours. Budgeted overhead divided by machine hours. Processing and bottling department. Budgeted overhead is 800,000. Here budgeted overhead is 650,000. Divide by machine hours. Machine hours. So they have given the machine hours. Now only we take the machine hours. Machine hours for the period 100,000 and 65,000. So the answer is the overhead absorption rate. Can you all tell me how much is for processing and how much is for bottling? So processing is 8 rupees per machine hour. And bottling also 10 rupees per machine. That is overhead absorption rate. Remember this formula. Budgeted overheads divide by the base. They will give the base. Sometimes they will say machine hours. Sometimes they will say labor hours. For any other base, if they give, we have to take here. I'll show you other bases. So these are the bases. Overhead absorption rate can be calculated based on the output. So total overhead divided by estimated number of units or estimated direct labor hours, estimated machine hours. So this is one we took now, estimated machine hours. So estimated direct material, labor cost, prime cost. This basis they will give you in the question. Right? So based on that only we take the denominator. That's the second part. Then the third part is cost of production per bottle of mango drink. Cost of production per bottle of mango drink. Cost of production. Per bottle of mango drink. So here we have the details. The following information relates to a bottle of mango drink. So remember, all these are for overheads. This is for overhead calculation. Direct cost is given raw material 650, labor 5, non-production variable overheads 4. So we will take that direct material 640. Direct labor 5. Then we have to take the overhead. Overhead cost there are two departments. Processing and bottling. Overhead absorption for processing department. Now, processing department 8 rupee per machine hour. Then processing division for each bottle per one bottle from the processing department 12 minutes will be used. From the bottling department 6 minutes will be used. Right? So per hour 8 means for 12 minutes how much? 8 divided by 60 into 12. 8 divided by 60 into 12. So 160. 160 is the overhead cost from the processing department. Then bottling department 10 rupees for 1 hour. So if you divide by 60, then you get the answer for 1 minute. Then if you multiply that by 6 minutes, you get the overhead from the bottling department. So total production cost. Production cost. Production cost of a bottle of mango drink is 14 rupees. With direct material, direct labor, and overhead. Production overheads. This production overheads. Voting. Is it clear? Then the last one, number 4. Budgeted selling price. Budgeted selling price. So how do we get the selling price? So selling price will be taken production cost is 14. Then we take non-production variable overheads. Non-variable overheads. 4 rupees. Non-production fixed overheads. 300,000 is the total. So 300,000 is the total for 50,000 units. At the beginning itself, they are given 50,000 units. It's here level of 50,000 units. So 300,000 is for 50,000 unit means per unit the cost is 6 rupees. What is 60? There is a question. What is this 68 divided by 60? The 8 for 1 hour. 1 hour means 1 hour equals 60 minutes. That is why 8 was divided by 60. So you get the answer per minute. What is the cost? Per minute cost is 8 divided by 60. This. Then you multiply by number of minutes. Multiply by 12 minutes. Then multiply by 6 minutes. So non-production fixed overhead is 6. So the total production cost. Get the answer. Total production cost. Addition of overhead. Addition of production cost plus non-production overheads, variable and fixed. And the answer is total cost. Then there is a profit margin of 20%. On the selling price of each product. Profit. Then the answer is the selling price. Can you all tell me how much is the profit? I'll explain non-production overheads. Now, when you calculate the profit, you have to take production cost plus non-production overheads. Non-production overheads. So non-production overheads are given here. Non-production variable and non-production fixed. Variable cost is 4. So we have taken 4. Non-production fixed cost is 300,000 for 50,000 units. So each unit is 6 rupees. Divide by 50,000. Yes, 300,000 divided by 50,000. 50,000 I took from here. Level of 50,000 units. Now all this information given for 50,000 units. So the overhead cost of 300,000 is for 50,000 units. That is why the fixed overhead was divided by 50,000. Now what is the profit? Cost plus profit margin is 20% on selling price. On selling price means if the sales is 100, profit is 20, cost is 80. On sales. Then if the cost is 24, how much is the profit? So you have to cross multiply. 24 divided by 80 multiply by 20. It's 6 rupees. Profit is 6. Then the selling price is 10. So that's how we calculate the selling price. Now profit is calculated using profit margin. There is something called profit margin and markup. Right? So this is markup on sales. If the sales is 100, you have to calculate the profit. From 100 sales, profit is 20. And cost is 80. So they have given the cost as 24. Total cost is 24. Then the profit should be calculated using cross multiplication. So 80 divided by, no, here you have 80 and 24. So 24 divided by 80 multiply by the profit amount is 20. So if anyone didn't understand this, send me a message. So I'll share. There's a video which I did on profit margin and profit markup. I'll share that. Right. So this is how we analyze the overheads and calculate the absorption rate and calculating the production cost and the selling price. So this covers a complete area on production overheads. 80 and 20 comes because of if the sales is 100, profit is 20. So the difference is 80. Because cost plus profit is sales. So this part, if you didn't understand, I'll share the video. It's better to check that because then it's easy, right? I have fully covered markup and margin concept completely. So did you all understood this part? Is it clear? So this is a little bit advanced question, right? We will do some more questions, and also if possible, try to do another past question and give as a homework. So in the next session, I will discuss a few more questions. If you possible, try to do 2017 paper. 2017 paper. And also other questions also you can try, right? 16 and all, it's easy, right? So in the next session, next class, I'll explain the other questions related to this. Okay.